Welcome to Bird for Joy, a show about discovering all the different ways that bird watching can bring joy into our lives. I'm Candilynn Fite, your gracious host and fledgling birder. Here at Bird for Joy, we focus on listening and watching the birds around us, being curious and learning what the birds have to teach us about joy, life, and ourselves. So grab your favorite beverage, settle on your perch, and let's get into today's episode. Welcome back, my birdiful friends. Does anyone else feel like the month of March whizzed by at an alarming speed? Honestly, it's been a blur. In celebration of Women's History Month, I wanted to dedicate this episode to some of the women throughout history who have made significant contributions to science in the field of ornithology. I wish that there was some way to acknowledge and name every woman, past and present, who has contributed their service, time, observation, and study to birds and the field of ornithology. But that is darn near impossible. So, in a blanket sentiment of appreciation to the women of the past, the present, and those in the future, thank you. Thank you for your hours spent in the field, your dedication, observations, experiences, data collection and recording, books and field guides written, lectures and classes given, and your passion and love for the field of ornithology. It's important to point out that not only did these amazing women study the birds, but most studied living birds in their natural environments, which also steered many of these women to be advocates for our environment and conservation. Now, historically, men dominated the field of ornithology, not because women weren't out in the field devoting their time and putting in the work, but due to the fact they haven't received merit for their contributions to science, either because their work wasn't recognized by historians or their roles in the study of ornithology were ignored. Even worse, in some instances, the credit for these women's work was awarded to men in their field. This phenomenon is called the Matilda effect, which is the bias against acknowledging the achievements of women scientists whose work is attributed to their male colleagues. Yes, it's a real thing. This sounds atrocious, and had I not found the evidence in my research, I might not have believed it. Yes, I believe gender bias exists then and now, but the mere idea that many of these women were denied credit and recognition, rejected, or had their life's work stolen is unbelievable. If you simply type in, quote, famous ornithologist, end quote, into Google, the first set of names that appear are all men. It's not until you start clicking, show more, does the first female show up. But I'm not here to wage a war on gender bias in the birding world, at least not today. I am here to highlight a few of these extraordinary women, the unsung heroines in the history of ornithology. These women made major contributions to science, and they deserve appreciation and acknowledgement. Up first, Florence Merriam Bailey, born in 1863, was an American ornithologist, bird watcher, and nature writer. She's known as the First Lady of Ornithology in America. She was a prolific writer, a scientific illustrator, a conservationist, and published the first field guide to birds in the United States, called Birds Through an Opera Glass. The field guide is written for the hobbyist birder or bird watcher, not the scientific community. Not only is it written for the beginning birder using terms and language that is easy to comprehend, but her prose is engaging and witty. Her passion and love for the birds is very evident. Unlike many of those who studied birds in her era, Florence chose to study living birds in their natural habitats, instead of shooting them and taking them back to laboratories to study them. Mrs. Bailey was also the first woman member of the American Ornithologists Union and the first woman to ever receive the Brewster Medal, a prestigious award for writing in the field of ornithology. These are only a handful of Florence Marion Bailey's contributions to the science of ornithology, and we should be forever grateful. Her field guide, Birds Through an Opera Glass, is a fascinating read, and one I highly recommend to every birder. Next, I'd like to talk about Mabel Osgood Wright, born in 1859 and known as the mother of birding in Connecticut. She was a prolific nature writer, a bird and nature activist, a lobbyist, teacher, an environmentalist, and probably best known for founding the Connecticut Audubon Society and the Birdcraft Museum and Sanctuary. Birdcraft was one of the first bird-specific educational sites in the United States and still serves as an education center today. She dedicated her life and her work to helping others understand and appreciate preservation for the natural world. She was said to be a woman ahead of her time and a friend to nature. Mrs. Wright, along with other pioneering environmentalists, were pivotal players in getting the Migratory Bird Treaty Act of 1918 passed. Mabel condemned her fellow females for following such a cruel fashion trend she nicknamed the feather frenzy, a trend which had decimated many bird species to the point of near extinction. The Migratory Bird Treaty Act prohibited the hunting, killing, trading, and shipping of migratory birds, along with regulating the commercial feather trade. Currently, I am reading her book, The Friendship of Nature, a New England chronicle of birds and flowers. I'll drop a link to the books I'm mentioning today in the show notes. The last woman of ornithology history I want to mention, I'm probably going to murder her name, by the way, Louise de Candilynn Lawrence. Born in 1894, Louise was a naturalist, birder extraordinaire, an author, and a nurse. She authored 7 books and hundreds of scientific papers. Louise studied nature and wrote from her property in northern Ontario. While residing in a log cabin, she banded birds, journaled, sketched, and wrote articles for various nature publications. She became the first Canadian woman to be named an elective member of the American Ornithologists Union. One of the things I admire most about Louise is her passion for studying nature, specifically the birds, in the field. Like Mabel Osgood Wright and Florence Marion Bailey, Louise spent long hours sitting, observing, sketching, and writing. She learned the birds around her. Another quality these 3 women share is their pure joy in observation. Experiencing the joy from observing and learning the birds is something that I strive to do every time I am out in the field. And I have these 3 women to thank for inspiring me along my own journey. As pioneers in the field of ornithology, I hope the legacies of these 3 incredible women continue to teach and inspire birders of all gender identities, but most of all, the young female birders. May they see these women as a source of inspiration on their birding journeys, overcoming obstacles and achieving their goals and their dreams. Thank you for joining me for today's episode. I hope you have a birdiful weekend, my friends.
If you are enjoying the show, I would love it if you would follow or subscribe, rate, review, and then let others know about the podcast so we can continue to build a community of like-minded birders. Until next time, stay chirpy, my friends, and get outside, feel the sun upon your face and the wind in your hair, and bird for joy's sake. Bird for joy's sake, when you're needing more, a new beginning, feeling lost, alone, or blue, go into nature. Stroll to the melodious tunes of birdsong. Let it refresh your soul, fill your heart, lift your spirits. Yes, bird, for joy's sake. Witness the winged wonders, flitting, fluttering, playing hide and tweet. Is there anything else so sweet? I think not. We'll save for the chitter-chatter of my own nestlings as they filled my early days, but sigh no more, for they have long left the nest, and I now strive to find myself once again, discovering new things that I do best. Bird, for joy's sake, for our feathered friends have much joy to share, and it doesn't cost a dime, only time. And I don't know about you, but I am willing to give, to have a chance to live out my days, filled with curiosity, hope, and wonder, learning patience, the art of slowing down and being fully present, living in the moment, something I have long strived to achieve. Bird, for joy's sake, and keep looking up. Let their constant cheer infect you, their tenacity provide you with lessons of never giving up, and looking on the brighter side of life. Prepare for entertainment with their quirky, chirpy silliness. Oh my, so much cuteness, happiness, and whimsy. You can't help but smile. And suddenly you'll discover worries cease, frustrations fade, chaos calms, and troubles melt away like snow in the spring. You will find yourself looking up and forward into the horizon, surrounded by song, hope, and happiness perched in your heart, feeling renewed and fulfilled. Go out into nature, take a stroll, let the avifauna rejuvenate your soul, and bird, for joy's sake.